We're coming from John chapter 6 on this morning. John chapter 6. Very, very familiar text. John chapter 6. And we're going to look at verses 1 through 13. Very familiar text. We all know this text here. Even non-believers know this story here, but let's break it down and let's look at it today. John chapter 6, verses 1 through 13. All right, verse 1, it reads as follows. It says, "After these things, Jesus went over to the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias, and a great multitude followed him, because they saw his miracles which he did on them that were diseased. And Jesus went up into a mountain, and there he sat with his disciples. And the Passover, a feast of the Jews, was nigh. When Jesus then lifted up his eyes and saw a great company come unto him, he saith unto Philip, Whence shall we buy bread, that these may eat? And this he said to prove him, for he himself knew what he would do. Philip answered, 200 pennyworth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them may take a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, saith unto him, There is a lad here which hath 5 barley loaves and 2 small fishes, but what are they among so many? And Jesus said, Make the men sit down. Now there was much grass in the place. So the men sat down in number of about 5,000. And Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed to the disciples, and the disciples to them that were sat down, and likewise of the fishes as much as they would. When they were filled, he said unto his disciples, Gather up the fragments that remain, that nothing be lost. Therefore they gathered them together and filled 12 baskets with the fragments of the 5 barley loaves, which remained over and above unto them that had eaten." Amen. If you're taking notes on today, I am coming from the topic, This is only a test. This is only a test. Grace Center, if you know me, which my family members definitely know me very, very well, and that is when I am watching a great movie or a great show, I like to make sure that I'm focused on what I'm watching. I don't like interruptions. I don't like distractions. I just want to focus on what I am watching. And regarding the movie genre, I really like mystery and suspense movies. I love to try to figure out who did what. How is this going to turn out? I love to let my mind just kind of think about things, try to figure out how is the movie going to end. And of course, also, I'm a sports guy, so I love to watch a good sports game. I don't like interruptions and distractions when I'm watching my sports game. If the Tar Heels are playing, let me watch my Tar Heels play. I love to watch a good sports game. So as you can tell, I love to watch a good movie, a good show, or a good sports game without any kind of distractions or interruptions. Don't be talking among, with me in the room and distracting me and wanting me to go take out the trash or wanting me to go do something while I'm watching what I'm watching. No, let me sit here and watch this movie or this game. But every once in a while, as I'm watching something that I really like on TV, sometimes there is an interruption in what I'm watching. There's a beep that may come across the TV, and when that beep comes across the TV, the broadcaster will say something to the effect of, this is a message brought to you by, and then it would say, this is only a test. In other words, they are testing out the communication equipment and the devices and the different towers and so forth and the satellites, just to make sure that everything is in working condition. Everything is working the way that it should. So every once in a while, the broadcaster will come across the television screen and interrupt what we're watching just to test out their systems to make sure everything is in good working condition. But at the very end, they'll say this is only a test. Here in the text that we just read, Grace Center, we see the lives of some of the disciples being interrupted by a test. As a matter of fact, let's go down the text and let's break it down on this Sunday morning. Let's go back and read verses 1 and 2 once more. Verse 1 again, it says, after these things, Jesus went over the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias, and a great multitude followed him, because they saw his miracles, which he did on them that were diseased. They are following Jesus, Grace Center, because they saw what Jesus had done before. They saw the miracles that Jesus did before, so now they are following Jesus. Let me say that again. They saw the miracles that Jesus did before, and they decided to follow Jesus. You see, when you see someone doing something that is out of the ordinary, you sometimes want to follow that individual. Jesus healed people. He performed miracles before, and it amazed them because they never saw those type of miracles before, and yet they decide to follow Jesus. Maybe you're following Jesus because he has done something in your life, or you've seen Jesus do something in the life of someone else, and you said, let me follow this man named Jesus. Oh, let me follow the one who I've seen do some amazing things, not only in my life, but in the life of someone else. Oh, we all have witnessed and have seen Jesus perform miracles. And if you say you have not seen Jesus perform a miracle, do me a favor, go get a mirror, look in the mirror, because you will be looking at a miracle in that miracle. Jesus performed miracles, and the people decided to follow him. Verse 3, let's pick it up again. Verse 3, it says, and Jesus went up into a mountain, and there he sat with his disciples. Now, here what you have is Jesus pulling his disciples aside. He's teaching his disciples, okay, his followers, all right? Because what Jesus would do is he would sometimes pull his disciples aside, and he would give them some in-depth teaching, some insight. In other words, he would kick some knowledge to his disciples. And that's what he's doing right here. And you see, if we follow Jesus ourselves, Grace Center, what Jesus would sometimes do is he would pull us to the side from everyone else, and he would kick some knowledge to us. He would go in depth and teach us some things that he may not be teaching to anyone else if they're not following him. He was teaching his disciples on some things here. Let's pick it up here. Let's read part A of verse number 5. Part A of verse number 5. It says, when Jesus then lifted up his eyes and saw a great company come unto him. Okay, so let me paint the picture for you. Jesus has his disciples. He pulled them aside. Okay, as he's teaching his disciples, he looked up and he saw all of these people coming after him. All of these people are following Jesus. That lets us know, Grace Center, that these people are desperate for Jesus. These people are desperate for him. The word even tells us that Jesus went up into a mountain. So in other words, these people, they were so desperate that they decided to go on a hike. They were so desperate to hear from Jesus, desperate to get a touch from Jesus, that they will put on the back straps and they will hike a mountain to follow him. Have you ever been so desperate for God, Grace Center, that you would do anything to get to him? These people are desperate for Jesus. They saw him do miracles before, and now they are taking a hike to follow him. I've been in that place where I've been desperate for God, and I would do anything to hear from him. I know we have some people out there that would do anything to hear from God. You tune in every week to hear a word from the Lord. You read your Bible, you tithe, and you give, and you pray, and you sow, you fast, you do all these different things. Why? Because you're desperate to hear from God. So wherever God goes, you want to go with him as well. Wherever Jesus goes, you want to follow Jesus down that same path. These people decided to go up a mountain and follow Jesus where he was at. Let's continue reading verse number 5. The end of that, it says, he saith unto Philip, this is Jesus talking, he saith unto Philip, whence shall we buy bread that these may eat? Okay, let me read that again. He saith unto Philip, whence shall we buy bread that these may eat? So the people have followed Jesus up this mountain, and Jesus looks at Philip and he asks Philip a question about where are they going to buy bread from. And I find it interesting, Grace Center, is that we have Jesus, who we know as the answer is the one who is asking the question. We have the answer asking the question. But another question may be raised is, why did Jesus ask Philip? There were other disciples there. Why did he turn to Philip? Why did he point out Philip? Why did he single out Philip? Why did he choose any of the other disciples that was there? Well, I'm glad you asked. You were good class this morning. Well, I believe he asked Philip because Philip was from that area. This is Philip's hometown. So if anyone knew where to get bread from, it was Philip. So he turns to Philip and he asks Philip the question, where are we going to buy bread from? But the issue is this. Here's the issue, Grace Center. It is too many people there to feed at once. It is too many people to feed. It is thousands of people following Jesus. But yet Jesus turns to Philip and asks Philip, where are we going to get the bread from to feed all these folks? Now, there is no Costco back in those days. There is no Super Walmart. There's no Sam's Club. There's no Publix, no Kroger, no Piggly Wiggly in that area at that time. But Jesus, he turns to Philip and said, Philip, where are we going to buy bread from to feed all these folks, to feed all these people? Where are we going to get bread from? And watch this. Let's read verse number 6. It's about to get real good right through here. Watch this, verse 6. It says, and this he said to prove him, for he himself knew what he would do. Okay, I don't think you caught that in the King James Version. Let me read that in the Amplified Version. It says, but he said this to prove or to test him, for he well knew what he was about to do. Well, I don't think you got that in the King James Version or the Amplified Version. Let me read that to you in the Message Version. It says it like this. He said this to stretch Philip's faith. He already knew what he was going to do. Oh, let me read that Message Version one more time. I feel it in my big toe right through here. Watch this. He said this to stretch Philip's faith. He already knew what he was going to do. Yeah. Grace Center, the text, this particular text shows us that sometimes God will on purpose ask us questions simply to test us. Sometimes we may find ourselves between a rock and a hard place, and God will use that situation to test our faith. Yeah, He will test our faith in certain situations. Watch right here. Watch this. God won't test us if we don't already have the answer to the question. Watch this. God will not test us if we don't already have the answer. Watch this. Because up until this point, Philip, he has already seen Jesus perform miracles. All right? He saw Jesus turn water into wine in John chapter 2. He saw Jesus resurrect the nobleman's son in John chapter 4. He saw Jesus heal the man at the pool of Bethesda in John chapter 5. So here in John chapter 6, Jesus wants to know, Philip, how are we going to feed all of these people? How are we going to feed these thousands of people who have decided to take a hike and follow us up this mountaintop? This was a test that Jesus was giving to Philip. And watch this. He was stretching the faith of Philip because Philip had faith to be tested. Jesus was testing the faith of Philip because Philip had the faith to be tested. If Philip did not have any faith, Jesus would not try to even test it. You see, sometimes God will on purpose have us in certain situations to test the faith in which we have, because our faith needs to be tested. Our faith needs to be stretched. Our faith needs to be exercised. It's like when you first go into a gym and begin to work out, you may not be used to the equipment in the gym, and you may struggle a little bit at first, trying to figure out what goes where and how to put the weights on and how to work the equipment. And sometimes when you first begin to try to, lift the weights, you're struggling with the weights you're trying to lift. But over time, as you continue to go into that gym, to lift those weights, you get stronger and stronger and stronger over time. Why? Because you are stretching yourself. You are using what you have to make it stronger. So here in the text, Jesus is testing the faith of Philip to increase the faith that he already has. You see, sometimes we'll be in situations where we'll ask God, God, why me? Why do I have to go through this? How come I cannot get the job? How come I cannot go to this school? How can I not get approved for this house? Why is always me where things are coming at me? It could just be a situation where God is testing and he is stretching your faith. And over time, as you go through a series of tests throughout your life, you can look back in the rearview mirror and you can see God making a way out of no way before. Why? Because you went through that. And if you can go through that, you can go through this. Because up until this point, your faith should be stronger now than what it was before. Preacher on preacher, I'm doing the best I can. Jesus was stretching the faith of Philip, and he was doing it on purpose. Oh, the nerve of Jesus to do something like that on purpose. Oh my. Jesus was on purpose stretching his faith. Oh man. Oh, thank you, Holy Ghost. Look, there's another part, I believe it's in Mark chapter 4, Mark chapter 5, where Jesus was up in the mountaintop and he saw the disciples out in the lake struggling against the winds and the storm and so forth. Jesus decided to go down. He's up in the mountaintop. He's looking down at the disciples struggling the entire time. He sees them struggling against the winds that is contrary against them. And Jesus looks up from the mountaintop. He decides to go down and walk on water. Okay? When you go back and read that text, I believe it's in Mark chapter 4, Mark chapter 5, up in there somewhere, the word tells us that Jesus, as he's walking on water, he is on purpose trying to walk past the disciples. He's on purpose trying to just ease and mosey on by the disciples just to see if the disciples would even notice him in a storm. You may be in a storm right now, but sometimes God will on purpose. He wants to know, are you going to recognize me in the situation that you're in right now? I know I'm preaching good today. Can I get an amen for us? Can somebody type amen somewhere in the comments section? Jesus, he was on purpose testing the faith of Philip. The word tells us, it simply tells us that Jesus knew what he was going to do. You don't need a PhD in theology to figure that out. It tells us simply, Jesus knew what he was going to do. He was simply doing this to test and to stretch the faith of Philip. Right? Watch right here. What was the response of Philip? What was his response? Well, the answer is found in verse number 7. It says, Philip answered him, 200 penny worth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them may take a little. Jesus asked Philip, where are they going to buy bread from? But Philip responds with, we don't have enough. Jesus asked Philip, where are they going to get bread from? Philip responds back, Jesus, we don't have enough money to get the bread. And that's the mistake that Philip made, because Jesus did not ask him how much he had. He only asked him, where are they going to get the bread from? He did not ask Philip how much you got in your pockets. He only asked him, where are they going to get the bread from? And if we be honest with ourselves, Grace Center, we find ourselves doing the same thing that Philip did. God may ask us where, and we'll say we can't afford that. God may ask us what, and we'll say we don't have what it takes. God may ask us how, and we'll say I don't have the influence to make it happen. God may ask us when, and we'll say the time is not right. And we fail to understand that when God is asking us a question, it's not for his benefit, but it's for ours. Because God already has the answers to the questions he's asking. I can remember growing up, going to school back in the day. Sometimes the teachers would let us know when they would have an open book test. Whenever we knew we would have an open book test, to be honest, we ain't studying for the open book test. It's an open book test. We should say, on this day, we're going to have an open book test. The only thing we had to be concerned about was making sure we brought our books to class on that day. And you know, should hand out the papers and so forth, and we'll have our books open, and you know, we're trying to find the answers and all of that. But sometimes if you were not able to find the answer on the particular pages of that chapter, what you could sometimes do is you can go to the back of the book, because the answers was in the back of the book. I don't know if they do that today, but if you could not find the answers to the questions on just the regular pages of the book, you can just flip back to the back of the book and you will find all the answers to the questions. You see, right here in this text, Grace Center, this was an open book test for Philip. Jesus, who is the answer, was right in front of him. Preach on, preach. I'm trying. So when Jesus asked him, where are they going to get the bread from to feed the people, Philip's answer should have been, we're going to feed the people through you, Lord. That should have been the answer to the question. We're going to feed them through your hands, Lord. You're going to make a way, Lord. Lord, you're going to provide. Lord, you're going to provide a miracle. You're going to make a way out of no way, Lord. You're going to open up the door, Lord. You're going to make sure that the loan is approved, Lord. You are going to get me what I need to get. The answer was already in front of Philip. It was an open book test for Philip. The answer is asking the question, but the answer was standing in front of Philip the entire time. Now, we also know that, watch this, Jesus is called the bread of life. So here you have the bread asking Philip where to get the bread from. The bread is asking Philip, where are we going to get the bread from? The answer is in front of Philip the entire time. And the only thing Philip had to say was, we're going to do it through your hands. Through you, Jesus. You are the one that's going to feed all these people. Because I don't care what they have in the markets, you're the one that's going to make a way out of nowhere. You're the one who is going to provide. So how are we going to feed these people? You're going to make a way, Jesus. That should have been the answer to the question. But let's continue to read the text. Verses 8 and 9. Watch this. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon, Peter's brother, saith unto him, there is a lad here which hath 5 barley loaves and 2 small fishes, but, watch this, what are they among so many? What are they among so many? These 5 loaves of bread and these 2 small fish. What are these possibly going to do? You see, Andrew decided to step in there, and he had it half right. Okay, but even he doubted. When you continue reading, of course, you'll see that Jesus was able to feed the thousands of people that was there. Jesus, what he did was he took the 5 loaves of bread and the 2 fish, and he fed thousands of people. In other words, watch this. Jesus, he knew how to take a little and make a lot. He knew how to take a little but make a lot out of the little. You see, many of you may know people who probably grew up in a small home but had, maybe like 8, 9 kids and had like a 2-bedroom house. and somehow the kids, they all went to school, never went to bed hungry. Everybody got fed, clothes always on their backs, but the parents knew how to take a little, but yet make a lot. You may be in a situation right now where, God is stretching you, and you may have a little, but God is able to make a lot out of the little. You don't get paid till next Friday. You're looking in the refrigerator trying to figure out how can you feed your family for the rest of the week. I can remember growing up back in the day, my mom, she would make certain kind of dishes, and she would stretch out that dish for a few days. We got hungry, she'll take some hot dogs and cut them up and put in some spaghetti and stretch it out, and the next day she'll make something else and make that stretch and make this stretch and make this stretch, and we never went to bed hungry. Why? She knew how to take a little, but make a lot. So you think you don't have what it takes, and you think it's just a little, but just place it in the hands of God, and we serve a God that can take a little and he can still make a lot. You see, you may say that I don't have what it takes. I'm not qualified for this type of position to even apply for. Well, he can take your little education, and he can make a lot out of that. We serve a God that can take a little, and yet he can still make a lot. It don't care what you have in your hands. Take it out of your hands and place it in his hands, and he can take a little, and make a lot. I'm done. I'm closing now. Watch this right here. Watch this. I believe that Jesus was not only stretching Philip's faith, but I also believe that he was also stretching his imagination. He was not only stretching the faith of Philip, he was stretching the imagination of Philip of what could be done. See, sometimes God will stretch our faith, but also stretch our imaginations to see what is possible. If you can only believe. If you can believe that it's possible and place your faith in God, God can make the impossible possible. This was simply a test that Jesus was given. And watch right here. Even though Philip failed the test, because yes, Philip failed the test, not only did he fail, Andrew, who decided to butt in the conversation, he failed the test as well. But although they failed the test, they both still ended up handing out the food. They took a test, they failed the test, but Jesus still allowed them to hand out the food. They failed and they stumbled in front of others, in front of the thousands of people out there, They both failed the test, but Jesus still allowed them to hand out the food. In other words, Jesus still put them to work, although they fell down. He still had work for them to do, although they failed the test. If you failed the test, Grace Center, God still has work for you to do. They failed the test in front of others, and they could have been embarrassed in front of the others. But although they failed the test, God still had an assignment. He still had purpose. He still had work for them to do. Jesus did not push them to the side and say, you know what? Wrong answer, Philip. Wrong answer, Andrew. Since you did not have the right answer to the test that I was giving you, I'm not going to allow you to partake and hand out the food. Jesus didn't say that. He still allowed them to distribute the food anyway. Grayson, I don't know what you may be going through today, but what you are probably going through, it may just be a test. And God has on purpose interrupted your life from your daily routine of going about your life, and He has interrupted it with a test. And if I could tune in to heaven's PA system, I can hear God saying, we interrupt your daily routine to bring you this message, that this is only a test. I repeat, what you're going through is only a test. God already knows, Grace Center, what He's going to do. What has been worked out, or what needs to be worked out, has already been worked out. What you're going through is a test. That situation is a test. People walking out on you may be a test. You not getting that job is a test. You being denied for that home loan could be a test. You not able to get to this certain school just could be a test. And it could be a test by God Himself. And He could be on purpose doing it to stretch your faith, to test your faith, to increase the faith that you have. What you're going through, I believe that it's only a test.